All right, hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Saturday night. It is the Earthmaster out here, May 11th, 2024. It's about 10:01 p.m. here, California time. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D program shows looks like a 2.6 down into the South America region. Really haven't seen anything major kicking up here in the last 24, 36 hours or so following all of this space weather activity. But we'll continue to monitor this overnight and through tomorrow. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on here for space weather activity. Double check, make sure everything's good. We're recording. We're live. This is the most recent informational statement here put out by the Space Weather Prediction Center. Their website obviously has been having some overload issues with everyone inquiring about what's going on, what the solar wind is like, when the auroras are going to kick up, and so on. So, they're currently working on that. Overnight, this is the latest information here. Geomagnetic storming or varying intensity will continue. Now, the G4 or greater watch is for early Sunday through Sunday night. There's a series of CMEs, very fast CMEs that are going to be impacting the planet. And it's expected to lead back to the severe to extreme geomagnetic storms. And this is according from the professional folks here, the Space Weather Prediction Center. They're from NOAA. During periods of strong geomagnetic storms, auroras will be widespread and seen at low latitudes, comparable to what we've seen last night. So this is probably a late night, early morning type of event. Let's go ahead and check out the latest solar ham site information here. This site is up and running. Seems like it's doing pretty good as far as the space weather activity. It's not being shut down. There is our G5 class storm forecast still coming in. Now look at this. Reading right here. This is the current KP index here. We're still going up here. We went a little bit down overnight and through the day, but we're starting to climb back up here a little bit. But we're really not seeing the effects of it across the auroras for now. Things have gone, from crazy last night to fairly dull out here across the day and through the evening. A few folks reported seeing the auroras out here tonight. There's not a huge forecast going on right now as far as the potential goes, but the let's see if I can get the real-time solar wind stream to fire up here. It does look like it's working. Okay, now, this is the concern. This is the most recent updated information here. Even though we have elevated speed, this is what the speed is at from that solar wind stream and the CMEs coming in right now at about 891 kms per second. That's pretty fast. The density is up there as well, similar to what we had seen last night. But look what's different compared to this time right now to last night. See this openness right here, the BZ component well south of the zero, down to about negative 40 or so, and so on. But over the last, early morning hours and through the day, things have been very tight here with that BZ component now above the zero line pointing to the north. So that right there in itself is it's bad news. It's an aurora squasher, so to speak. This will suppress the aurora, even though we got significant solar wind stream flowing in, significant plasma, significant density of that plasma. Our magnetic field is going to prevent this from happening unless we see that BZ component there tip south. Again, that's that red line. You can find this information here from the Space Weather Prediction Center, NOAA.gov, and it's a real-time solar wind stream. I know it might be a little confusing, but the main things to watch here is this BZ component, the red line. If that goes south here, just south of this line here, the zero, then we can expect to see auroras intensify. But as of right now, it doesn't look like we're going to see that kicking up. Unfortunately, I was out there just looking at some pictures or just took some pictures out here in my backyard, and it looks like I can see a little something way out there on the horizon, on the northern horizon, from Northern California. But right now this does not look promising. It doesn't, at least according to the forecast. So I'm not for sure where these folks are getting some of the pictures at that I'm seeing floating across social media. That could be from last night. Who knows? But the forecast right now is not really calling for much due to the suppression of the solar wind stream there with a BZ component. Currently flaring, looks like with a little bit of C-flare activity from that far side sunspot. Look at that. Let's see if we can get this to stir up. Still a lot of traffic heading off to these sites, and it's putting a slow speed for all of us out here because of so much traffic. Everyone inquiring about what's going on here tonight. The sunspot well off on the southwestern limb, about ready to be out of sight, out of mind, is that's the culprit of all this CME activity. One of the most historic aurora events here in history, and it's saying goodbye. Still looks quite active out there, flaring with some C-flare activity, and the overall threat right now still remains elevated for some strong flaring with 75% chance for next flare. Proton event, we're still seeing that here across the polar regions there. Those are the charged protons from all this large flare activity. C-flare at 99% chance, M-flare at 95%. And as you can see here on the recorded flare chart, things have kind of mellowed out a little bit. We're below the M-flare category, but there's still potential here of seeing some strong X-flares before the sunspot number 3664 disappears, and we'll see if it comes back around the bend here quite as active. It will take a little time for it to round the far side of the sun and come back into the Earth-directed view. But this is the current image here, quite complex. We are left with, goodness, I don't even know if I want to look at these sunspots because there's nothing comparable to what we've been seeing here in the past week with this sunspot region. Minimal C-flare activity from the majority of these that are out here. This one looks a little bit complex here, getting a little bit of popcorn colors within this sunspot core, but overall threat will definitely diminish once 3664 is way out of sight here off the western limb. So we'll continue to watch this, and right now things are being suppressed about as tight as you can get here with the suppression, and hopefully that will open back up. As far as earthquake activity goes, let's see what we got here. I want to jump off that and go to the earthquake activity. Really haven't seen anything major going on here, folks, and I've been trying to keep a track here of this theory that space weather activity and the effects of it creates large earthquakes and elevated earthquake movement. But right now we're really not seeing it. I mean, to be honest, a 5.1 out here around this area of the world is very common. Kermadec Trench is almost always active out here, and this is some very minor to moderate earthquake activity for that area. If we look at the last 24 hours here, whoop-de-doo, a 5.4 out here in New Zealand, well north of New Zealand in the Kermadec Islands area. I'm a little bit disappointed because I really wanted to test out this theory of how the large CME activity and elevated proton events can play a major part in producing large-scale earthquake activity, and it's not looking good for that theory right now. We're pretty much disproving it with one of the largest events here in our history, in our time frame, as far as aurora activity, CME activity. We've seen a series of large CMEs that were Earth directed, and so far the plates have been typical, less than typical actually. Let's check out see if I can get this thing to key up, hopefully. Check out the forecast here in terms of what's been headed our way as far as CME activity goes. See, they're down. They're still down. They're periodically working. Looks like some traffic is getting through, but they're having issues, folks. There's a lot of people out there, curious as to what's going on. So we'll have to check that maybe here in a little bit. But let's go ahead and check out, the current activity out here. We got anything major going on out here in the West Coast, California? Well, if you call a couple twos major uptick, then go for it. But really not a whole lot going on out here in California. No major earthquake activity, no major elevated swarming, no volcanic activity stirring up out here across the West Coast. Yellowstone awfully quiet. Let's go check this out real quick. I forgot the Yellowstone site up there doesn't want to work, so I'm going to go to the official University of Utah site here, and they've been having some issues as well, huh? Look at that. Site cannot be reached. So they're down along with the Yellowstone seismograph overview. They've been down for a couple days, so I'm not for sure what's going on. It says refuse to connect. Maybe they don't like me. I don't know. I don't know why, but oh goodness. Let me try a different window here. All right. Well, they're having some issues there, it looks like, with that website. It's not me because I'm still streaming here full blast. Looks good on my end, but something's going on out there with the University of Utah and the Yellowstone seismograph station. So not 100% what's going on, sure about what's going on out there, but looks pretty quiet. Nothing showing up here on the map. Texas area still seeing some movement, but this is very typical. Let me show you guys how many earthquakes have taken place out here, even before all this space weather activity. How's 426 earthquakes out in Texas sound, right? A lot of people would be shocked knowing that there's that many earthquakes out here. It's just one of those things. There's a lot of oil fields out here. A lot of this area gets hit, and this amount of earthquake activity in the last 24 hours is actually a little on the minor side compared to any typical day. Not a whole lot going on through the rest of the country, and reality, look at this globe here. There's not a whole lot going on. Anything elevated? No. Someone tried to comment earlier on one of my videos stating that, hey, you forgot all these 4-pointers out here, Look at all this elevated activity. Well, the majority of those were from yesterday prior to the event, a couple from late last night, and since then they have disappeared. Taiwan, this area around Taiwan has been stirring up here long before the space weather activity, and this is only 3 earthquakes, so, let's deal with the facts here. If we look at the percentages of what we're trying to prove out here in terms of theory of space weather and earthquake activity, right now it's pretty much squashed. That's looking likely, but I will still keep track of it. This is just one time here where we've seen a massive event here on Earth with space weather activity. I don't, how many X-flares did we see? How many M-flares? How many CMEs were Earth-directed, and we got a full impact aurora seen in areas that haven't been seen in many years, and not a peep or a squeak in terms of elevated earthquake activity out here. That's got to use your brain on that. There's something going on here that maybe it's not related. I do know the sun plays a major part on weather. It plays a major part on obviously other stuff here on the Earth, but this event here has yet to prove that space weather can elevate earthquake activity out here. Obviously, we'll have to go into it another time, where odd magnetic readings have been read above a level of a region that may have seen a large earthquake take place. So there's obviously some science behind it, about the magnetic energy and whatnot that's taking place out here on Earth, and how somehow space weather could have an effect on it. But right now, just right now, it's not looking elevated with that theory. 1.9 southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Let's go check out the tremor map here tonight and see what we got. Cascadia tremor, not volcanic activity, but just general tremor down there along the Cascadia and into the subduction zone. Got 210 epicenters, really not that big of a deal. That is not a huge number. In fact, we really haven't seen a huge number since about right there, 2022, October 9th, where we've seen about 949 epicenters of tremor on one day. That was our last peak of elevated activity, and that had a consistency for a little while. But since then, things have gone kind of quiet. We really haven't seen that elevated tremor activity out here recently, and that's a little strange. But we'll continue to watch that. Most of the activity here along the Cascadia at the southern end here off the Oregon region, underneath the Oregon area, and into Northern California. Let's see what else we got here, folks. I mean, in all honesty, this is probably a pretty boring night in terms of earthquake activity. If there was no space weather activity out here, it would be hard to come up with a decent amount of information with the earthquake activity that's going on out here right now. There's just not a whole lot. One earthquake here just off the coast of Colombia, 4.6 earlier this evening. But in general, this area can see some earthquake activity. No elevated movement here across Hawaii. Let's go check out the latest information here from the USGS volcano site. The Kilauea volcano still sits at a yellow in advisory, but it's been like this well before the space weather activity stirred up. Let's see. There's still little issues going on here with the network, huh? So we'll have to check back on that, I guess, because something's not working on that side. It's not me. I'm still solid. But as of right now, things are, they don't look elevated, at least according to the information here. As far as Iceland goes, minimal earthquake activity out here. This is another region we're watching because of a whole lot of swelling going on underneath the area, a whole lot of inflation. There's not a whole lot of earthquake activity, though, and that's the key to watch in terms of discovering and figuring out where the next eruptive activity is going to take place here. Let's see if they put out any type of informational statement here tonight or today. This was put out yesterday, 5/10. They're just kind of placing their bets here that the most likely eruption area is going to be back in that crater area where we last seen our eruption at. But I don't know. I'm still thinking that we could see things kick up a little bit further south here towards the Grindavik area, south of Hagafell. That's the area of concern in my book. I've been watching these GPS instruments and all the earthquake activity here recently, and that's, I'm not going to place a bet, but that's where I'm kind of leaning towards. We'll continue to watch that. Not a whole lot of severe weather in the forecast. Very minimal here over the next couple days. Just general thunderstorm activity. Here's a current day one outlook. Slight chance of tornado activity there in New Mexico, but mostly wind and some hail threats out there. But look at that. It's getting worse. It's getting worse in terms of diminishing here. So, that's unfortunate because we have the conditions. We have... See, this is up to date 5/12/05/15, and right now it's 5/12/05/15. So that was up to date there. So the BZ component is not in our favor tonight, folks. Even though things are elevated along, with the wind, the plasma, the CME activity that has hit the Earth, but our electric magnetic field there is doing its job and kind of preventing this from happening. This is what I wanted to check out here. So this shows there's those massive CMEs. That's the event that stirred up the activity last night. There's the arrival. You guys see that? Let's go back here a little bit. There's the arrival of tonight's activity right about here. We should see things really start to stir up. I mean, we got elevated speed. I think we're at about 890, almost 900 kms a second. That's pretty decent there. Plasma's elevated, but the BZ component is the the deterrent right now. But we'll continue to watch that because that is, a decent amount of plasma that's being sent to the Earth there in the green circle. That's the large CME activity, the second round. Back behind that, looks like maybe another weak one, but, that's quite an event that stirred up last night. I'm just glad I got to see some awesome aurora activity out here in Northern California, and a lot of people did, definitely did. But, continue to watch overnight. If you guys want to stay up all night, continue to watch the BZ component there of the interplanetary magnetic field. If it dips below this line right here, this line below zero, similar to what it did last night, that allows more of an aurora event to take place. We could have, 1,200 kms a second with density off the chart, but this BZ component here needs to go south. The further south it does, the further down it goes from the zero level right here, that red line. That means that we're going to see some auroras. So that's the key. Watch that. Everything else looks fairly good for right now in terms of seeing the aurora, but it's this right here. These are the things to watch. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. I got some stuff I got to do super early in the morning. With this activity right now, I don't think I'm going to stay up all night and watch this because there's just too much consistency here with the BZ component up pointing north. So we'll catch you guys back out here in the morning. I hope it breaks, and I hope things lighten up. A little earthquake there on Hot Caves, Hawaii, but aside from that, all is calm out there. Have a good night, everyone, and good luck out there. Let me know. I'm still working on the aurora pictures that you guys sent me. I got a almost an overwhelming response there from everyone, but going to put together, after all this is said and done, a little video of everyone's pictures that they send in, and I appreciate it. There's quite a bit that you guys send in, and they all look fabulous. So I'm going to put them all together and make a little montage of viewer sent in videos or pictures. Got videos as well, but we'll probably stick to the pictures. All right, have a good one, folks. We'll catch you guys back out here in the morning, Sunday morning update.